There we go. Okay, so how can the rest of the application use this? Well, then news page will render the content in as text HTML format. So now what we need to do is to have the caller not passing a string, but now we have got an API that guides the client to not pass in a string, any old string, but to call it with a HTML text data. So now we have actually narrowed down and isolated this idea of string encoding for web in one single place in the code base. And of course we can reuse this over and over again, and in a very natural way. Next, of course we could have problem that we have SQL injection in the headline as well. So let's make the headline an attribute as well and have it return as text HTML. And then the client call to the rendering API will make it clear that we're not passing any old string, we're passing in an HTML string. So here we actually got, by now we have solved the output encoding problem as well, which is pretty decent for 30 minutes. Providing a style that guides the programmer to doing the right thing. And no one has said this really better than Erlend Oftedal, who has written a series of blog posts, The Security Craftsman, which I really, really recommend. Erlend, are you here, sitting in the audience? There you are. Go read this series of blogs. It's truly, truly excellent. I recommend any and all of them or give it to your peers. And it's a discussion between the infamous Mr. X and poor old me, just trying to do the right thing. And really pinpoints all these subtleties of validation and output encoding within the context of SQL injection, LDAP injection, and cross-site scripting. So, this leads me to one idea. Now that we have really seen that cross-site scripting could be used to address the output encoding, then I'd like to get back to the problem with SQL injection. So the output encoding enforces good encoding to the next system. What if we say that this database is an external subsystem? Then this is what prepared statements are all about. They enforce saying that this name is not something that's part of the query. It's a literal. So please interpret it as a literal and encode it properly. So if I should dream for something, I would like to have the JDBC API done again. I mean, it's now focused on connections and statements and database sources, results, and then the really, really important data, the structure of the SQL command. That is, that's just a string. No, it's not. It consists of parts. It consists of a select clause, of a from clause, of a where clause. Could someone please create a fluent API for me so I could express my ideas about how I construct a JDBC query as objects, as a tree, And that would make all SQL injection just go away. So just to flip over to make some kind of conclusion, which of course I should have started with in case of someone of you should fall asleep or something like that. So if we take domain-driven design and application security, we can say that would emerge some new kind of coding style that can call domain-driven security. One key thing we do is to make concepts explicit. Username and HTML text being two examples. We sharpen our eye to be aware of mappings at subsystem borders, like IVA web or java.sql. We validate upon input, which we can do by enforcing in the constructors. We encode on output by ensuring that we isolate that in one class where we generate HTML text. And we use a strong type value objects to enforce this validation and encoding, as we did in verify user and the news page. So I think this is just one way. We could start cooperating between developers and security experts to spread a new design style, a new coding style. And I invite any and all of you to come up with alternative ideas, tweaks on this or something else, to ensure that when we meet in 2013, I don't want cross-site scripting and injection flows up on the top any longer. Let's solve those two bugs. Thank you for your attention. Please.
So use HTML as one of your examples of your encoders.
Yeah.
I want the entire audience to be aware that there's different kinds of encoders you need in your HTML. It's not just HTML encoding. So if you're not familiar with those, make sure you read the OWASP XSS cheat sheet, because there's like 5 different contexts for that stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of people see that as the classic example, and they go, oh, that's the solution for XSS, and unfortunately, that's 95% right.
Excellent comment here that I make a total oversimplification here, but just saying HTML encoding, and there's a whole family of encoding issues in HTML, so thanks for pointing that out. Please.
If you were writing JSPs and you had to manually call as text HTML, if your value type implemented, say, HTML serializable, where it could return a HTML version of it, and we changed the semantics of JSP so that, you know, unless you're in, say, a script tag or a CSS tag, the substitution checks whether the value type is an instance of something that's serializable to HTML. If so, uses that. Otherwise, you know, falls back on the, you know, just output the text. Would that reduce the burden on the JSP programmer? So
it's an interesting observation to have to put the context awareness. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can. To put that briefly, the comment was basically about that, can we make this kind of system a little bit more dynamic so it will realize the context and generate behaving upon the context? I think that's an excellent example of the context-dependent implementation.
One way to deal with your SQL example is this very simple lexical transform. You've got a string plus dynamic portion plus static portion plus dynamic portion.
Yep.
What you've got is n static pieces of text and n minus 1 dynamic substitutions. If instead of using plus, you had SQL open parentheses, that is an argument list, and then you overloaded the SQL function so that it takes string, comma, SQL serializable, comma, string, comma, SQL serializable, then you can have your domain objects implement SQL serializable, and that, you know, that way they can implement HTML serializable, which is used in the JSP context, and SQL serializable in the SQL.
So the comment was that if we could make the objects aware of their context, basically. I think that's a really interesting idea. I'd love to discuss that further with you, but I think we're kind of running out of time. Could we take that offline?
Yeah.
So I have one more comment. Your style with the HTML object, what I was afraid of is the developer would take your object and forget to call the constructor around and all that. They would go, oh, this is an object. Oh, it's not a string. Oh, we got pluses around it, so I'm automatically call toString, and then the string comes popping out of it, and then you still have a problem.
Yeah, of course. In my example, would that actually be stopped because the toString method will generate HTML text ampersand something, so the page will just look messy. The compiler won't stop them, but some kind of inspection will stop that. But it's a valid comment. The toString method is a little bit messy. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. Thank you again for your attention, and I think it's time for the panel discussion.